So this video is going to be just me talking about some of the biggest storylines, some of the best storylines throughout Top Boy, and some of the biggest deaths. And this video is quite off the cuff, so just remember that I haven't written any notes or anything like that. This is just straightly off the cuff, off the top of my head, the storylines that I can think of. This includes the original Top Boy seasons 1 and 2. Just any of the storylines from season 1 to season 4 that I really liked, and some of the biggest deaths as well. The first one I want to talk about was the whole Kamali situation. For what I can recall, Kamali stole, him and his crew, they stole they stole product from Deshane and Sully's trap house, and Deshane and Sully were on the lookout for him. They were looking everywhere, trying to find him, and in the end they told some of the youngers, including Michael, to stay out of Kamali. I remember, because they killed Kamali's cousin by accident. Well, Sully actually killed Kamali's cousin by accident. They were just meant to tie him up and whatnot, and we hit him a little bit, and that's about it, and just use him to get to Kamali. Say to Kamali, oh, we got your cousin, you gotta give us our stuff back and whatnot, or whatever, something like that. If not, your cousin's dead. That was the plan, but Sully messed up by accidentally killing Kamali's cousin. And so Kamali's cousin, there was a cute funeral for Kamali's cousin now, and Deshane knew, okay, Kamali's definitely gonna go, but he might not go to the funeral because he knows that we're on the lookout for him. So what he might do is he might go to the to Kamali's cousin's house or something like that. He might go to the house like hours later, thinking that it's safe. But so that's why he got the youngers to stay right next to Kamali's house for hours and hours and hours, and then when you see him, give Deshane and Sully a call. And that's exactly what Michael did. He saw Kamali late at night, gave Deshane a call, basically playing the lookout basically. And Deshane and Sully arrived, they grabbed up Kamali and whatnot, beat him up, and then they ended up killing him and burying him in I think it was in the sand or something like that. No, it wasn't in the sand, but they ended up shooting him and they ended up burying him. And that was that. Pretty interesting storyline, just the way they were on the lookout for it, just gave you that high anticipation. I remember watching that for the first time, anticipating, oh, what's gonna happen, how are they gonna find him. Very good storyline. And it was just, like I said, the original seasons of Top Boy for me were just way better than the Top Boy we have now, that's on Netflix and that. The original ones were just far better written storylines, far more realistic as well. That's something I've got to say. But other storyline I want to talk about as well, this one's not as interesting, but it was still quite good, was the Bobby Raikes one. You remember how Raikes kept telling to Deshane, I think he kept telling Deshane to kill Sully, because Sully kept messing up. He killed Kamali's cousin when he shouldn't have, and I think he was attracting attention from the feds too much. What else did he do to mess up? He killed Leon as well, when Leon wasn't meant to die. He wasn't in the game. Sully just kept messing up, and Raikes had enough of that. So he said to Deshane, kill Sully. I'm only gonna work with you from now on. But Deshane acted as though he was gonna do it, but he didn't, and he ends up shooting Raikes pretty easily though. So that was a bit. Overall, I like the whole storyline behind it, but the end, the climax where Deshane killed Raikes was a bit unsatisfying. He got killed way too easily. This is meant to be some guy. Raikes must have killed a lot of people to be in the position he is. You don't become a drug connect that easily. You must be somewhat tough. You must be a killer to do that. So the way Deshane just killed him that easily and he didn't see it coming, a bit unsatisfying for me. But the storyline overall was good though. Next storyline I want to talk about Leon's death, also from the season 2, I believe, or season 1 actually, I can't remember, but one of those 2 seasons. But Leon's death was really interesting, because with him, he was just trying to look out for Renelle. I know you guys remember Renelle's character, one of the most loved characters in Top Boy. So he was just looking out for Renelle, tried to make sure Renell was all good, because Renell had no father figure and his mum was in care. So Renell was pretty much living by himself for every few nights, and that here Leon would come, like, bring some food, they would chill, they would talk about what's going on with life and whatnot, how school going, all of that. But Renell got involved with Deshane and Sully. He wasn't working for them. Instead, he was working with Deshane for a while, because he had a weed farm and he wanted to sell the weed to Deshane. And so him and Deshane made a deal, and Deshane was actually gonna honor that deal. He wasn't gonna try and rob Renell or anything like that. Yeah, he wasn't gonna try and rob Renell or anything like that. But Sully, on the other hand, he had different ideas. He wanted to actually just steal the weed and not pay Renell a thing. And Deshane was actually against that whole idea. So Sully went behind Deshane's back with Driz to all the way to the weed farm. Now he ends up stealing. He went. I think what did he end up doing? Yeah, he ended up stealing everything there. And Leon ended up coming now. Well, was it Renell that came? No, they both came. Yeah, like Renell and Leon ended up coming. Renell tried to stop Sully. Sully just, hit him a little bit. I think he slapped him to the ground and whatnot. Leon comes now. Sully pulls at the strap, shoots Leon in the stomach. Leon dies. So yeah, and that really messed up Renell. Renell thought that Deshane had set him up, but it's understandable why he thought that, but that wasn't the case. It was just Sully who went on his own accord. Deshane had nothing to do with it. So Renell thinking that Deshane set him up. He brings out a knife now, tries to stab Deshane. Deshane obviously being far bigger than Renell. Renell's a kid. He's at 15. Sully's a grown man at this point in his mid-20s. So he's easily able to disarm. He's easily able to disarm Renell. Renell's a kid, and defend himself. Renell's mum gets involved, tells Deshane, stay away from my son, all that stuff. And you think that's the end of that, obviously, but Deshane ends up helping Renell's mum in another situation, because that Chinese man, I forgot his name, who works in that shop, ends up beating up Renell because Renell was trying to protect Jem, his friend. And so Renell's mum goes to Deshane and says to Deshane, can you do me this favor? Can you just talk to, just intimidate the man from the Chinese man from the shop. Tell him to stay away from my son. Just intimidate him a little bit. Don't hurt him, don't hit him, just intimidate him. And that's what he tries to do, but then Jem's dad ends up stabbing the guy. And I know I have kind of segued into a different storyline now, talking about the Chinese man and the whole Jem situation, how that guy was giving Jem a hard time and whatnot. But that storyline was also a very, very good storyline. And yeah, damn, man, this makes me really miss the original seasons. And I know I've kept banging on about how they were so much better, but yeah, it makes me really miss them. But yeah, those are just some of the big storylines that I remember from that. And some of the big deaths, like Leon's death, Kamali's death, Raikes' death, and the storylines that led to them. Another big storyline, and this might be the last one I mention, at least, this will be the last one I mention for the original Top Boy, and that is Michael's death. Michael's death was mad, because Michael was a guy where, again, very authentic character, interesting character, and he was shotting on the roads for Deshane and Sully. He was shotting for them, and Deshane would send him on these trips to certain places in London, to certain buyers and whatnot, to collect the money and stuff like that. And what else Michael did? I remember he got caught for shoplifting, and he ended up snitching to the feds. The feds ended up scaring him, interrogating him, and pretty much blackmailing him, telling him that if you don't cooperate, if you don't snitch, if you don't tell us where you got the drugs, your mum, that you'll go into care and whatnot, you won't see your mum ever again, you won't see your brothers ever again. Pretty much lying to him, really. You know how the feds do, these corrupt feds, to get what they want. So that's what they did. And Michael, and being a kid, he ended up getting scared and ended up snitching on Deshane. But Deshane never truly found out, because before he could find out, Michael was already dead. Michael got thrown off a building. That is mad. So yeah, Michael got thrown off the building, and he was trying to help out the Shane because these where were they from again? I think they were Russians or whatnot. They ended up robbing the trap house where Michael and this other guy called Colin was staying at, and they ended up shooting Collins. I think his name was Collins. Yeah, they ended up shooting him, and Michael can hear them, and he's hiding at this point, and he ends up seeing the Shane out of the balcony, and he says, "Oh, the Shane!" He shouted the Shane's name, and while the Shane looks up in confusion, while the Shane looks up, you see wherever they were from, I think they were Albanians or Russians. You see them, and they end up throwing Michael off the balcony, carrying him and throwing him off the balcony, and Michael ended up smashing his head on the ground and dying immediately, of course, which is pretty tragic, a very tragic death there. But yeah, that was a mad one. But yeah, that's it for in terms of my favorites and the most interesting storylines. I would say the most exciting storylines and the most tragic deaths, the most interesting deaths from the original Top Boy. I'm gonna end this video here. I may or may not do a part 2 where I pretty much do the same thing but for the newer Top Boy seasons 3 and 4. Guys, if you want me to do a part 2, then write in the comment section, or just write part 2 please in the comment section, something like that, or part 2 please in the comments if you guys want me to do a part 2 of this. And if I do a part 2, it will just be one where I do the same thing, talk about the storylines and deaths and that, but for the newer Top Boy seasons 3 and 4 basically. So yeah, write down part 2 please if you want to see that in the comments. Just write that down in the comment section, part 2 please, and give me your thoughts on everything I mentioned in the video, any storylines that you liked from the original Top Boy as well that I haven't mentioned. Oh yeah, there's one I got to mention as well, Sully and Jason. That's another one I forgot. Sully and Jason as well, great storyline. I really liked that one. I like how they met. That was really, really funny. Jason trying to sell Sully Sully tissues. Basically, I think he was trying to say £1 for each tissue, £5 for the whole packet. And then Sully's like, oh, they're like 50p in the market or something like that. And Jason's like, oh, we're in the fucking market. That one the cat was funny. And then he saw Jason a few other times, but he ended up befriending Jason because he saw Jason like a little brother. And I guess Jason kind of reminded him of himself when he was a kid and whatnot. Yeah, so that was nice to see, that whole Sully and Jason dynamic. That's another storyline I liked. But yeah, that's it for this video. Put in the comment section storylines that you liked as well, and from the original Top Boy. And yeah, that's it. In a bit.